I'm about to show you the coolest bunt of all time. You ready?
Young with a bunt, and it's going to end up in shallow right field.
Want to know why that's the coolest bunt of all time? Because it was the closest to being a home run. Everyone knows what a home run is. It's a fun feat of strength where a player hits a ball past the wall and out of the field of play, usually warranting a cool celebration too. Bunting is intentionally leaving your bat out over the plate to tap the ball, usually as lightly as possible. Almost the complete opposite of a home run. For many years, bunting represented something called small ball, a strategic element of baseball meant to manufacture runs with clever tactics more than brute strength. There's a harsh reality now for bunting though. The game has changed.
Hey, you guys feel like playing some baseball?
Bunting does not make sense, and its value is the lowest it's ever been. To the point where bunting is actually more likely to do harm than good for your team. I have a crazy fact for you. No matter how old you are watching this video, you have seen less bunting than the generation before you saw. In 2021, Northwestern University published a study that showed ever since the end of World War II, bunting has without fail gone down through the generations. Teams unquestionably bunt less than ever before. Why is that? Well, I'll give you the short answer that transforms into the long answer. Everyone got really strong. Average power numbers have only increased on both sides of the ball throughout baseball history. Hitters are hitting more home runs. Pitchers are overpowering more hitters with strikeouts. Hitters today have much more of an all-or-nothing approach at the plate because it's really hard to score runs off pitchers who are more talented than ever before. It's much easier and more likely in today's game to have one successful big hit than managing to string together several base runners at a time against elite pitching. In a sense, you only have to win one matchup versus a few. The most valuable thing a baseball team has is the 27 outs the other team needs to make them get through 9 innings. Way more often than not, a bunt results in a free out, and with each out in the inning, a team becomes less likely to score. Scoring is, how you win a baseball game. Bunting isn't even a loophole to not make outs. They can still field the ball and throw you out, catch it on a pop fly, or if you bunt the ball foul with 2 strikes, it counts as a strikeout. When you're aware of all that, why would you send the average player up to bunt when the average player today is much more capable of running into the ball and driving it over the fence? Even the CinemaSins guy makes analogies with this to say things are stupid.
This is like getting Mike Trout to bunt.
The good teams today have their whole lineups from top to bottom as guys who can do this.
Dolis hits that one high in the air, deep out to left, a soaring blast, gone!
Which leads to way more scoring and winning. Bunting can't keep up. So, let's finally answer the question, why bunt at all? Bunting is normally done for one of 2 reasons. To try and advance a runner from one base to the next at the trade-off of an out, or catch the defense by surprise and hope a runner's speed plus the trajectory of the bunt helps them reach first base unscathed. You need perfect precision to pull this off though. There's a reason why South Korea turned bunting into curling during their All-Star festivities. And by the way, curling kinda rocks. I was the prime LeBron of Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games curling back in the day. So bunting can be cool and useful, right? Well, over the last 9 MLB seasons, the average annual rate that a hitter reached base on a bunt was about 23.3%, a little better than 1 in every 5 bunts, which means almost 4 out of every 5 bunts, the batter wound up being out. Teams have realized something. It went something like, hey, we have more home run threats now. Pitchers are really good and get outs more efficiently than ever before. Why waste an out when we can go and try for a hit instead? Put it like this too. The average MLB batting average in those same last 9 seasons is about .249. Hitters are more likely to swing and get a regular hit than they are bunting and getting on base. So with all that, why would you knowingly weaken your chances with a bunt? Here's Otis Nixon bunting as the last out of a World Series, by the way, which is a great segue for another change of philosophy that contributed to the death of the bunt. Bunting is usually done by one of two kinds of players. One that we'll get into in just a few minutes, and really fast guys who don't hit many home runs, like Otis Nixon. Really fast guys typically would try bunting for a hit, but even that requires perfect precision to avoid just becoming a free out. Today, really fast guys only drop down bunts if they know they're gonna work. It's the same as how stolen bases became done for efficiency versus just doing it to do it, since the cost was just handing the other team a free out. Hitters still make outs more often than not on bunt for hit attempts. Successful sacrifice bunts don't count towards batting average, so we're using this metric here. Even if they get on base, it's only just a single. Ask a team like the Phillies or the Braves if they would rather just swing for the fences. The Braves have 3 sacrifice bunts in the last 2 years. Today, there are way less really fast guys with no power in their bat than ever before. That's because lineup construction is usually, again, much more predicated on hitting as many home runs as possible, because there is a definite correlation between hitting home runs and winning baseball games. For much of baseball history, the first spot in a team's batting order was occupied by a lighter hitting but really fast player. The thinking was that if they can get on base and steal some bases, they can generate some early runs. And that's fine, but as we've already gone over, dropping down a bunt isn't very likely to get you on base. Teams figured out that plate discipline and the ability to work walks is guaranteed to get you on base. It's in the rule book after all. You get to go to first base if you take 4 pitches out of the strike zone in an at-bat. So to be sure they get early base runners, teams shifted from just putting their fastest guys at the top of the lineup to putting non-home run threats most likely to get on base. Some teams even just put up their biggest power hitter first. Let me give you a perfect example. Lamont Wade Jr. led off for the San Francisco Giants in over 70% of the games he played for them this past season. He led the team with a rate of getting on base 37.3% of the time, good for 13th best in all of MLB. Wade had 17 home runs this year, which was 3rd on the team. And remember, as a primary leadoff hitter, stole just 2 bases with 20th percentile speed. In other words, relative to other baseball players, Lamont Wade Jr. was pretty slow. So why lead him off?
Because he gets on base.
Offensive strategy in this era is all about getting on base or driving the ball for extra bases. Bunting, statistically, tends to accomplish neither of these things. Why weaken your chances of hitting a double, triple, or home run? Maybe even your chances of a walk. Because for well over a century, there was another kind of player who made frequent use of a bunt. Pitchers. Unless you're Shohei Ohtani, pitchers typically are not very good big league hitters. Fine, I'll throw Zach Greinke a bone and include him too. When a pitcher would have to bat, it was usually just a formality for them to be a free out. I mean, the 2014 Mets pitchers started the season without a hit in their first 64 at-bats combined. And then Jacob deGrom got the first hit in his first MLB game. Jacob deGrom did a lot of things like that for the Mets when he was there. Pitchers were bad at hitting. From 2015 to 2021, pitchers hit a combined 124 in a whopping 27,343 at-bats. Guess what? Even they were more likely to get a real hit than do something good with bunting. And they were the position that bunted nearly every single time they were up with a runner on base. In 2022, MLB permanently adopted the universal designated hitter. Pitchers stopped hitting. Lineups got better. Bunting became unnecessary. We had world peace or something like that. But you want to know something? I think you might see bunting come back in a way that matters again.
Now Margot puts down a bunt. The throw, no throw to first. The run scores. He caught everybody by surprise.
I know bunting is stupid and usually does harm when looking at the numbers. It makes you less likely to score runs. You're more likely to do something good when you swing for real. I know it makes less sense than ever when pitchers and hitters are better than ever and you need to play for the big threat. You want to know something crazy though? Since pitchers stopped hitting, position player bunting has actually improved in terms of its likeliness to become a hit. That's because, without any real data to prove this theory, I think bunting has an inherent element of surprise to it now if done right. If nobody's doing it, and you're skilled enough at bunting with quick enough feet, you can try to steal first base and get a rally going if you pull it off and the situation is right. Because there's one time where the rules of bunting go completely out the window, late in games. Say it's late in a baseball game and you really only need one run to make a difference, playing small ball becomes far more acceptable, especially if it works. Duh. The rate of bunts goes way up in extra innings, particularly in this new era where teams begin each inning from the 10th inning on with a runner on second base. If it's the bottom of the 10th inning and it's a tie game and you've started with a runner on second, who cares if you hit a home run and win by 2? The guy at second base is the only thing that matters until further notice. If all a team needs is to get that guy into score, bunting to start the inning might make sense. I think, paradoxically, the less you see it as a consistent part of the game, the more you could see it influence a game when it comes in. This is something that, admittedly, you can't really prove with studies or data or anything like that, at least not yet, but it's the kind of thing that when it gets pulled out in a close game, you'll notice, and it might very well make the difference in the game. Bunting could really be transformed into a late-game chess move almost, not a regularly seen weapon, and that's fine. It doesn't mean the baseball you grew up with is ruined. Think of it like if a fond part of your nostalgia baseball is that much more meaningful when it's utilized. Because the use of bunting is so much more strategic. Efficiency is way up in practically everything in baseball. A player's gonna bunt if they know it's gonna work. You may never know when a team or a player is holding it in their back pocket to catch you by surprise. Because you know what's crazy? Teams are definitely getting more efficient at bunting, even if you never use them in most situations. Bunts can win you a game sometime.
A drag bunt! He gets it down! No play, and the Mets win it! A perfect drag bunt by Andy Chavez brings home Sean Green.